Greetings, fellow Salt and Saucers, and welcome to another video on solo RPGs. Today I want to talk to you about You Are a Muffin, a solo journaling game by Exehunt Press. This is a very different kind of theme than that which we are most accustomed. And before you just click away from this video wondering why you would want to try this, I suggest you just stick around and find out. I was interested in the idea of a journaling game about being a baked good. Oh yes, you're not restricted to muffinhood, by the way. You could be some other kind of baked good. But I think this is a very fun way to spend, I don't know, let's say about an hour. I think this game recommends about an hour to play it through, which is about the right kind of length for this sort of experience. This game is played really simply with just 2d6 in a series of prompts, no sort of resolution per se. Just kind of find out what happens and build a story around it. The designer talks about sort of the thought process behind this game, which is an attempt to stretch the idea of what a journaling game could be. If you could turn almost anything into a game, even pretending to be a pastry. And honestly, it is, he says it seems that it was a success, and I tend to agree. This is a very interesting game, not just in its design scope, but in the experience it generates. So I'm going to just flip to the back just to show you the pastry character sheet. They'll give you an idea of the game. So as you can say, stats list, the name of your pastry, your type. See, for my game, I went with the triple berry muffin. There's other options, of course, but back when I used to frequent coffee shops regularly, I used to have a favorite shop, and it used to serve these amazing triple berry muffins. So I basically used that description to describe my pastry, as well as the ingredient list, because I thought it'd be fun. Freshness is how you keep track of how fresh your pastry is. You start at 50, peak freshness, and as time passes, you sort of cross off different little area here until you're like basically stale. Which is interesting. You kind of don't want to get stale because it's kind of lame. But at the same time, do you really want to be eaten? I mean, your point is to be eaten. So if it's going to happen, it'd be fun if it was peak freshness, that whomever is eating you has the best experience possible doing it. Just that is kind of an interesting thought. This here is what they call the risk value, which is the risk value you have to be eaten. So what you need to roll in order to be the chosen pastry from the customer. And here we have a little cafe floor plan, which is cool. This is how you keep track of where the customers are sitting as they arrive and as they leave. It's actually very fun for fostering, I don't know, like the visual of the thing, because this whole thing, actually it's interesting. It has you, of course, view the coffee shop from the perspective of your baked pastry that's sitting over there on the counter somewhere. Just sort of observing the coming and going, which very much resembles the experience of actually going to a coffee shop, at least the experiences I've had, where I usually go for a table near a window and just kind of look out to watch other people's coming and goings. So in a way, while it changes the perspective, this brought me to the same sort of calm space that a coffee shops bring me into whenever I go into one. So it's interesting from that perspective also. Anyway, I'll show you quickly how we play. This game, I'll go here, does have a bit of a safety tool, a safety paragraph. Just again, if you have experiencing feeling of loneliness, of isolation, that makes sense. I mean, I think that's something that I think I've experienced in coffee shops also, generally speaking. Sometimes when you're sitting alone and you're watching other people come in with people they know, or they seem to have such purpose, like even people walking the street, they seem to be going somewhere, right? And sometimes I'm just sitting there going like, what am I even doing? So again, to play about an hour, quiet place, coffee or tea, I highly recommend. I mean, I use tea because I don't drink coffee, but it does set the mood. 2d6, writing implement, character sheet, something to write on, and we go. Oh, sorry, interesting thought. Sound. This game recommends some playlist on Spotify. I don't have Spotify, I have Apple Play, but whatever, I just picked some like Paris coffee shop music playlist, something came up, and that actually really helped the mood. I really quite enjoy that. And once that's done, you just relax and enjoy being in a coffee shop from the comfort of your own home. So the first thing you do, you choose your pastry, your name and your type. You can roll or choose. Again, I chose my muffin, but you could go for scone or macaroon or biscotti or pain au chocolat or croissant. This is entirely up to you. I mean, maybe your coffee shop has, a nice marzipan croissant you want to emulate. That's all over to you to choose what you want to do. Describe yourself, draw your pastry, peak freshness, and we begin as the coffee shop opens at 6 a.m. Ready to play? Very simple play loop. Also, just moment of appreciation for how well laid out this little zine is. Very easy to follow what you're supposed to do. A lot of solo role-playing games, especially the journaling one that are simpler, seem to not go in as much detail to sort of explain the overall plan before it unfolds. So I appreciate this. Every turn, customer arrives, order is placed, seat is taken, items are consumed, customer leave, maybe. If I'm not eaten, I become more stale, and the next hour begin. So, slow down, no rush. Again, this is experimental. You're not rushing to the end. The end is obvious. Either you go stale or you get eaten. There's not a big reveal at the end. This is just experiencing today at the coffee shop. So the first thing that happens, customer comes in. Number 2, a student. Makes sense. 6 a.m., I'm going to gather that they had to submit an assignment and they finished really late last night and now they want to read it over one more time before they emailed it over at, by 8 a.m., which is the cutoff time. This is me imagining, by the way, from these prompts or just sort of what I'm going with. I'm just imagining my Muffin making these observations from the counter. They come in, they place an order. 7, which is a latte mochachiato. Sorry, again, I don't drink a lot of coffee, so I'm not entirely sure what all these fancy coffees are. But, it sounds like a fancy thing a student might order. They probably come here for a bit. Maybe this coffee is near the university. That would make sense in the downtown core. And then we decide what the risk value is, because what are they going to order? Are they going to eat me too? So I roll a 2 and a 4. This time we don't add them. We just look at the value of both. And if both dice are less than the risk value, the customer chooses you. So of course, at risk value 1, no one's going to get eaten. So you at least guarantee 3 rounds of this before you become tempting. So in this case, even if I roll double 1, which is the lowest I could do, they would not both be less than the risk value. So you're safe. Not chosen. So then I can decide what they order. It's a student. I don't know. Maybe... how about they order some sort of like breakfast sandwich? Because they're thinking they probably won't have lunch later. They'll just make it happen. Then we see what seat they're taking. 3. Seat number 3. Oh, it's this one. Okay, I get that. Like maybe they're sitting in the back of distraction. They need a nice big table for their laptop. They're going to eat quickly, read over. They're perhaps one of the most easy table. Don't want to take a 4-seater, but they also want enough space. They need a proper chair, not some couches to be working at. Then the items are confused. Did they enjoy their order? I'm going to assume they ate it very distractedly while working on their assignment. And then the customer leaves, and we would roll a die. And the customer sitting at table number 4 would leave. In this case, it's still empty, so no one's going anywhere. That's all good. Students staying there doing their homework. But then when they sat down, I usually just write like 9 a.m. on the seat here. They might leave one place, I would erase them, but then I remember, 6 a.m. So I would remember which one is leaving or sitting at which table for like the continuity. Then I would become more stale, so roll a d6. I lose 3 points of freshness, so I cross up 3 of these boxes. My freshness is now 47 out of 50, and the next hour begin at 7 a.m. So we would go back to the beginning, get a new customer, see what they order. Again, I would be safe from being eaten right away, but we would see this evolve. So this is sort of like literally, it's experience being a coffee shop in your head. Without being in a coffee shop and without being someone in a coffee shop, you're a muffin. So it's almost like you have even less decision to make than in a coffee shop. Honestly, I said it's interesting, and it is. I also want to say it's kind of fun, and it's very relaxing. Like I walked out of this experience really feeling like I sat in the coffee shop, listened to chill music, and let myself be pampered for a little bit, with somebody else preparing me a fancy drink and making me feel like nothing outside the coffee shop requires my attention right now. So a good little feat of a journaling game, a very fun experience, very relaxing, very short. Like I said, like 1 hour sound about right. So this is one of those like easy to play, not rule heavy. Like if you don't want to figure out something complicated, this takes you out of your surrounding into another familiar, safe one. It's also one that would play well on PDF. Like if you don't want to have printed zine, there's not a lot of, you have to flip for the prompts, but after a while, like you don't really need to. There's no rule referencing really. The flow is very, like after your second customer, it's very well memorized. What I did is just sort of transcribe this onto a separate piece of paper. The freshness, I just wrote the number instead of checking. Like I just started with 50 and then I would just subtract from my dice roll. So, it's very easy to do. It's also one that if you're not inclined to write, it's easy to just imagine. So you can definitely do this theater of the mind style. Just sort of picture your coffee shop, picture people coming and going, and just keep track of your muffins, freshness and where people are sitting on a little sheet, and you're good to go. And so with this, I'll let you go. This one gets a thumbs up from me. This was a very fun, very interesting, very offbeat kind of little game, and the sort of thing that I like to see indie designers come up with. Thank you, and have a great day.